Incident. All right, everyone, we are live. Welcome to our amazing numerous authors to the One More Page virtual space and to all of our amazing viewers out there. We're so excited to have you for this big book birthday bash, which I think is a title specifically designed to test my speech therapy and how well it held over from elementary school. But we're so excited to have all these amazing authors here. We have Laura Weymouth, Laura Taylor Namey, Makiia Lucier, Lauren Blackwood, Rebecca Ross, Rebecca Kim Wells. I mean, the hits keep coming. And they're here to talk about all their super cool books that have either come out or are going to come out. Those are the two options for types of books. But I'm going to get out of your hair. I'll be keeping an eye, everyone, on the comments section. So feel free to post any questions there. And I'll keep an eye on them so we can answer them at the end of the video. And everyone else, enjoy.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to get us started out. Hi, everybody. As Amanda said, I am Laura Weymouth. I am the author of The Light Between Worlds, A Treason of Thorns, and in like a week and a half, also this book, A Rush of Wings. And I'm just going to go ahead and tell you a little bit about the book as well. It is a retelling of the classic fairy tale, The Wild Swans. It's set in the Scottish Highlands around the time of the Jacobite uprising in 1745 or 46. I should have double checked that. But it's got lots of magic and it's moody and atmospheric, and I think that you'll really love it. And it comes out November 16th. All right, who wants to go next?
We should have discussed this, and now it's too late. I'll go next.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Kim Wells. I'm the author of the angry bisexual dragon duology Shatter the Sky and Storm the Earth. And then my new book coming out also on November 16th is Briar Girls, which is sort of an epic queer fairy tale reimagining of Sleeping Beauty, featuring Lena, who was cursed by a witch so that anyone she touches dies. And then what happens when she discovers that there is maybe a way to break that curse.
I guess I'm going. Okay. I'm Laura Taylor Namey. I'm the author of The Library of Lost Things, A Cuban Girl's Guide to Tea and Tomorrow. And my newest one coming out on November 16th is When We Were Them. This is my first friendship book and my first book in dual timeline. And it features the 10-year-long friendship between Willa, Luce, and Britton, and one moment of betrayal. And asks the questions, will everything these girls have been to each other be enough to withstand everything they've become? And what did Willa do? So that comes out on 11/16.
I am Lauren Blackwood. My book is Within These Wicked Walls. It was supposed to come out in November, but it got pushed to October. So it already came out October 19th. It's a Jane Eyre retelling set in a fantasy Ethiopia, where our hero Andromeda goes to this haunted castle haunted by the evil eye and has to cleanse it. And she falls in love on the way. So.
Okay, I'll go next. I'm Rebecca Ross. I am the author of the Queen's Rising duology, Sisters of Sword and Song, and the newly released Dreams Lie Beneath, which came out this past Tuesday. So Dreams Lie Beneath is about a magician named Clem who battles nightmares every new moon because she lives in a world where these nightmares are cursed to materialize once a month. But her life changes when two young, handsome, upstart magicians waltz into town and challenge her and her dad for their territory. So it sets Clem on a revenge path to get back what she lost. But she ends up finding out that she is involved in a dangerous game of court intrigue with the boy she's trying to take revenge on.
Hi, everyone. I'll go next. I'll go last. I'm Makiia Lucier. I grew up on the Pacific island of Guam, but I currently live in Raleigh, North Carolina. I am a former librarian. I studied journalism in college, and I've written 4 books so far. And the latest, which comes out on Tuesday, is called Year of the Reaper. And Year of the Reaper is a historical fantasy. It's about an engineer's apprentice named Cassia who returns home after 3 years away, only to discover that home is not what he remembers. His castle has become a refuge for the royal court, and they have brought their enemies with them. So while Year of the Reaper is definitely historical fantasy, it's also a mystery. It's Kaz, step by step and chapter by chapter, trying to find out who is out to harm the royal family and those closest to them.
Wow, they all sound incredible. I've had the privilege of reading Lauren Blackwood and Rebecca Kim Wells books already, and they're just so good, and I cannot recommend them enough. They're both fantastic, and I am so looking forward to reading the other three as well. Now, did we all pick a couple paragraphs to read? Okay, yay, because we all have our books on hand, so I figured we could each read a couple paragraphs just to give people a little taste of what you can find between the covers of the books that we've just pitched to you. So I can go ahead and get started, and then do we want to like pick an order or go in?
Just call on us.
Oh, okay. I'll call on you.
Okay.
I get to be the teacher. How exciting.
Okay.
Okay. So here we go. I've got a little snippet from the first meeting between Rowena, the main character of A Rush of Wings, and her love interest, Gawain. Rowena took most of his weight as they traveled the few steps to the cottage door. On the threshold, the boy went dead white for a moment. His eyes rolled back, and cold fear shot through Rowena at the thought that he might fall and further harm himself. That's enough, she snapped in a panic. None of that. If you faint, you won't need the floor to break the rest of your bones. I'll do it myself. With a jolt, Gawain came round. His dark eyes fixed on hers, clearing as they did. You're a right scold, aren't you? He grumbled. But there was relief behind the words, and more than a hint of gratitude. I may be, but it's my scolding that's got you here. I expect you to remember that, Rowena retorted. All right, Laura Namey, you go ahead and go next.
I'm going to read the opening, and I just put this on Twitter today, so might as well just stick with that because everything else is a spoiler. When we were young, the idea of death was so far away. We used to dream up ways we could haunt each other. It became a game. We dealt it playfully over gigantic hot chocolates, boxed yellow cake, or in front of vanity mirrors. If Britain died first, she'd sing herself into our heads, a soaring C note above the C, above middle C, just to remind us she used to be good at it. Ghostly Luce would circle her doll-sized hand around our wrists, 2 fingers to the artery there, or pressed against the throbbing pulse point at the sides of our necks. I didn't know what form my haunting would take, but Britt and Luce did. They swore I'd be a spectral nag, the scrapbook save everything kind. A pine box and some dirt shoveled over my head wouldn't stop the Willa J. Davidson sentimental gene. And to my friends still full of blood and caffeine, I'd whisper, are you keeping every greeting card and a corkboard pinned with pictures of all the miraculous stuff you're doing without me? Are you? When Nico was around for these talks, he said he would never haunt us, would never dare and just let us be. But I didn't believe him.
Love it. Makiia, you want to go next?
Sure. So I'll just start from the very beginning, too. So he goes, they rode for hours, through the night and into the dawn, stopping for nothing, not even to rest the horses. They knew what hunted them, a threat that could neither be seen, nor heard, nor felt, until one turned around and there it was. Too late to run then. Plague was spread through the air, you see. Everyone knew this. Jihan struggled to stay awake on her horse. Weariness dragged her chin to her chest before she caught herself, jerking upright in the saddle. Bleary eyes took in the tall, stately cypress lining their route, and the sun rising above the mountains in the east. 10 guards rode before her, 10 in back, so few of them remained. The others had been left behind in towns and villages along the way. Her people, shed like snakeskin, dead like snakeskin.
Wow.
Nice.
All right, Rebecca Wells, you want to go next?
Yes. Okay. So I'm not going to read from the beginning. This is about from the middle of the book. The main character, Lena, has to go to this house of dragons to get something that I shall not name. And she makes a mistake. And then the dragon's laughter stopped abruptly. Without warning, the lights went out. The room went cold and I shivered. Something slithered behind me, brushing against my calves, and I flinched. Humans should not make demands, said a voice that raised the hairs on the back of my neck. Humans should understand they are here only as long as they amuse us. That was not amusing. I'm sorry, I stammered. Sorry is not good enough. What shall we do with her? Break her bones, watch her cry. This one is no fun. I want to burn her. I was acutely aware that there was no way out of this mess. I was entirely at the dragon's mercy. I did not mean to offend, I said desperately. I'll tell you a story. A story? That is too small a price for the prize you seek. And for the offense you have given, we require something more. You say you seek something of personal value? Your payment must be personal too. Anything, I said, before realizing how foolish such an offer might be. Anything? Something, a tail, I thought, coiled around me and tightened, squeezing my body like a vice. I tried not to panic. Even your happiest memory, your dearest dream, your keenest pain? How much of yourself are you willing to give?
Oh, I love that whole scene. That's such a good part. Okay, Rebecca Ross, you want to go next?
All right, yes, and I'm reading from chapter 2. I glanced at the Book of Nightmares in my arms. It was a tome, the sort that could hold back an ironclad door. I had read only portions of it, and some accounts had made me laugh at their absurdity, while others had actually made me fall asleep, only to wake hours later with my cheek pressed against the caramel-tinged pages. But there were some recordings that made me shiver, dreams influenced by the mountains. They had sparked such fear in my bones that I hadn't slept for a week after reading them, although none of these nightmares belonged to me. No, I studied nightmares, and I confronted them every new moon in the streets of Hareswith, when the magic flowed freely from the mountain fortress and dreams were cursed to materialize. But I didn't know what it was like to experience a nightmare, what it felt like to wake frightened from something that felt hauntingly real. As a magician, I chose to never dream.
Oh, wow. Never dream. My goodness. Okay, Lauren Blackwood, you're up.
Last, of course.
I saved the best for last.
Okay. Chapter 4. My first waking had been terrifying. It was before Jember worked for the church that moved us away from this far more dangerous town. And a one-room cube of wood and mud with a tin roof was no place to leave a 5-year-old by herself at night. So Jember had taken me with him to see a client. I'd sat through the waking, staring through trembling fingers as he worked. And for weeks afterwards, I'd had nightmares of a manifestation made of long fingernails, crawling up the wall like a scorpion. Eventually, I got used to monsters. Eventually, I learned that the world was scarier than anything the evil eye could manifest. A merciless upbringing had left me literally scarred, whereas no curse could lay a finger on me. But after my first night in this house, I knew I was wrong. My God, how could I have been so wrong?
That's a good one. Oh my goodness, the monsters in the book are so creepy. I love them so much. I love a creepy house.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. Next on the list, I have, what was your favorite part of writing your most recent book? So I guess I can go first. I'm a nerd, so my favorite part was doing all the research for the historical tie-ins. I dropped out of college, but while I was there, I was a medieval and Renaissance studies major. So now writing novels that are historical novels is how I use the fact that history was my chosen discipline. So I really like doing the research, which is boring, I realize, but that's my favorite part. So let's see.
Research is great.
It's you can't get anything wrong. You don't have to like hit the emotional beats. You're just opening 150 tabs. What's not to like? Okay, Lauren Blackwood, would you like to go next?
Sure. I can't say research because you said it. So I'm going to say the romance was my favorite part. Honestly, the romance scenes are the ones I write first. And after I nail the character's chemistry, then I write the rest of the book. So yeah, the romance scenes were definitely my favorite.
I love that. And they're definitely a strength of yours. They're always so good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Love them. Okay, Rebecca Ross, would you like to go?
Yes. So it's kind of weird because like I loved writing the court intrigue in the book, but I at the same time hated it. So I feel like in some ways it's like a lot of fun when you start having like all the court intrigue pay off towards the end of the book. But it's hard to like plant those seeds in the beginning to make sure like you have to have a lot of foreshadowing, but you can't give away too much. And but I think like I love reading court intrigue, and I feel like it keeps sneaking into my books anyways, but I really enjoyed it in this one.
Very nice. I love that too. But it is so complicated to keep track of everything. Oh my goodness. And make sure that it all like dovetails and meshes efficiently at the end. Yes. So good on you for taking up the challenge. Rebecca Wells, would you like to go next?
Yeah. Probably my favorite part of writing Briar Girls was the fact that I got to write it at all. It actually was the book I wrote before Shatter the Sky. It went on submission and didn't sell. And then I wrote the books that actually got published. And then I decided, you know what, I just am not willing to give up on this book. So I came back to it and we managed to sell it to my editor. And in terms of like actually specifically what's in the book, the dragons were my favorite part. They're so weird and creepy. And yes, they are my favorite.
I love that. And I'm so glad that you got to sell it because I'm like incredibly picky about anything remotely related to the Fae. And your take on that like kind of concept is just so amazing. I love it. It's just so in depth and it's like true to the old sense of the Fae as being dangerous and tricky and kind of creepy. It's just, I love it so much.
Well, thank you.
All right, Makiia, would you like to go next?
Sure. So I don't outline my books. I write with a pencil and a notebook. And I just start to write, and I hope that eventually what I write makes sense. So what I like best about writing is when I surprise myself, when I figure out a plot point I had no idea I was searching for, when I write something gross and medical and medieval, just when I surprise myself because I'm not planning ahead. It's the best part of writing a story. It's the surprise.
I love that. That's amazing that you can do that too. I'm like, I started out a little more like that, but now I'm pretty much just like completely bonded to my outlines, my chapter by chapter breakdown. All right, Lauren.
That way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I could be that way.
The grass is always greener.
I know.
All right, Laura.
Oh, okay. I'm sitting between Laura Weymouth and Makiia, and I plot exactly. I'm like between you. So I don't plot everything. I'm the plantser. I don't outline, but I don't pants. So I kind of know where I'm going, but I don't have every scene. So I just thought I'd mention that because I'm between you two. So. But I think this, like I said, was my first dual timeline book. And that was like the best and the worst thing about writing this book. The present time, it's a present timeline that is 1 week. So it's a short timeline that's kind of frenzied. And there's a mystery that I deposit in the middle that I don't sell, obviously, that you have to wait to see both timelines, trying to figure out the clues of what Willa has done to Luce and Britain in this 1 second moment of betrayal. So you know that she's done something when it opens and it's the week of graduation and she has to fix it and repair her friendship. And the past timeline encompasses freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior year of high school and all the things that lead up to the moment of betrayal. So you're toggling between past and present, trying to put together the clues to try to figure out what she's done. And it gives the past gives meaning to the present. This was really fun to do and also terrifying in a way because I couldn't give away too many clues at once. I had to kind of dole everything out. And so that it felt rising, so that the past is feeding the present and the present is also illuminating things in the past. And that was really challenging for one's little brain. But I think the challenge is why I enjoyed about it, because I decided I was just going to do it. And through a couple of rewrites and a really good editor, here we go.
I'm so impressed that you did that because I'm
I am
trying
too.
to write a dual point of like a dual
Call me.
timeline, and I'm like, I can't. It's too hard.
It's hard, yeah, but we did it. Thank you, Alex Borbola.
That's awesome. And it's so rewarding to read books like that too. It's so much fun as a reader to be the one going, wow, look how they did that. That's so cool. And your mind is blown. And then when you're the one writing it on the writing end, you're like, well, my mind is blown too.
Yeah. It felt good when it was all done and handed in. But
yes. Yeah. Oh, and I wanted to interject for anyone who is joining us. If you want to leave questions for later in the comments, you can go ahead and do that at any time. You don't have to wait until we officially open up the Q&A. So if you have anything you'd like to say, please go ahead. But we're going to keep moving along. And my next question that I had for all of us was, what was your favorite? Oh, no, we just did that one. We just did what was your favorite part of writing your upcoming book. Here it is. It's if you could visit any location you've written, where would you go? So I'll go ahead and start us off. For me, it is hands down Burley House, the murder house from my second book, A Treason of Thorns. It is this big, sentient, haunted English countryside manor that really loves some people and really hates other people, and you're not sure who you're going to be with it. But it was just an amazing setting to write, and I would love to visit Burley, even if it did do me in the end. So let's do Makiia. You want to go first this time?
So, well, Year of the Reaper is set in a fictional version of medieval Spain. So, 14th century Spain. It's fall. It's set in the mountains in an old castle. It's rainy and it's blustery, and that sounds really nice. I would like to hang out there for a little bit, for sure.
I think we should have a writing retreat there.
That sounds pleasant.
Yeah. Let's do it. All right. Rebecca Wells, you want to go?
Yeah, most of my books, like there's a lot of fraught things going on in all of them. So I was really thinking hard about this, and I was like, you know what? In the very first chapters of Shatter the Sky, before the main character, Marin, like departs on her big journey, she goes up to this lake that's up in the mountains above her village where she grew up, and it's sort of her like special place where it's just very peaceful. She can go and just think about things. And I'm like, yeah, that seems like out of all of my settings, the most one where I'm least likely to be killed. So
that's a good criteria, least likely to be
yeah.
killed. I should have applied that one to my choice. That sounds so nice though. Oh my goodness. I grew up by the Great Lakes, so I have a huge affection for lakes as a setting. That sounds beautiful. All right, Rebecca Ross.
Yeah, so I think I'm going to have to go with the Isle of Cadence, which is an island in my upcoming adult fantasy novel, River Enchanted. This is a place that is inspired by the Isle of Skye, and I would like to just live on a little hill, be a crofter on a farm with some sheep, and have a garden in the kale yard. So choose there.
Okay, these are all like stellar writing retreat locations. So I think we just need to have like a rotating year of writing retreats. Okay, Lauren Blackwood.
Mine is not such a great writer retreat. Because I don't really have any locations that realistically I would not want to go to, because the desert, while real, is very hot. And then the castle is haunted and also freezing, which I don't do good with either of those. So out of all those, I would say the city that is right outside, like it's about an hour outside the castle, within these wicked walls, not for real. But it is kind of like designed to be a labyrinth and very brightly colored and beautiful. And so I think that would be the safest place to go, least likely to get killed by something. So I think that's the place I would go.
Well, that's an awesome choice. And the city was such an evocative location. I loved it so much. You could just see it in your mind's eye. All right, Laura, you want to finish us off for that one?
Yeah, we're going back to England. I want to go, my second book, A Cuban Girl's Guide to Tea and Tomorrow, takes place in Winchester, England, which is about an hour outside of London. And it's where Jane Austen is buried in Winchester Cathedral. And I love this little city. It's so cute. It's a cobblestone streets, and like there's a pedestrian walkway where you can't drive. And there's little shops. It's kind of medieval. It's super old. It's really green with rolling hills, perfect for picnics like my cover. And I just want to go there right now.
That
so
sounds
writing retreat. Yeah.
Oh, these were all really good choices.
Mine wasn't. It's okay.
Well,
we'll invite you to our world.
I started us off with the murder house, so. Okay, let's see. This is a good one. I'm excited to hear about this one. Which character that you've written do you most identify with, and why? So for me, it continues to be, regardless of how many books that I write, Philippa Halfwell, the older sister from The Light Between Worlds, because she looks fairly put together and like she knows what she's doing on the outside, but on the inside, she's just a complete hot mess. And I feel very much like that as a person. So I really relate to her in that regard. All right, let's see. Rebecca Ross, you want to go next?
Yeah, so this was kind of a hard question for me to think about, because in some ways I feel like there's little pieces of me in all of my like main characters, but in A River Enchanted, again, I'm talking about the book that's not out yet, but it's coming out in February. There is a character named Sidra, and I felt like every time I was writing her chapters, I just felt so connected to her, and I think it's how she views the world that she's in. She has a much like a quieter strength, and I feel like I'm a lot like that too. Like I'm just more quiet and reserved, but she still puts her foot down though when she needs to. And she's a healer, and while I'm not like a healer or anything, but she loves being in her garden, and that is like something since like 2020. I've like tried to become a gardener. I'm very much an amateur gardener, but I found so much like therapy just being out in my garden recently. So probably Sidra from A River Enchanted.
Well, I can't wait to meet her. And I love your garden pictures on Instagram. Oh my goodness, they make me so happy. When you post like little stories about your garden. I always love seeing other people's gardens. All right, Makiia, would you like to go next?
Sure. So in Year the Reaper, there's a character called Annalena, and she's an apprentice historian. So she's kind of my favorite because she's a giant nerd who loves history. I, too, am a giant nerd who loves history. So I just really relate to her.
I love that. I'm a fellow giant nerd who really loves history, so we need to stick together. All right, Laura, would you like to go?
Okay, I wrote 3 girls in When We Were Them, but none of them are particularly like me. And Leela from A Cuban Girl's Guide to Teen Tomorrow is me at 18, and they even gave her my huge Cuban girl hair on the cover as a tribute. But yeah, like myself, Leela thinks that when she's 18, she has absolutely everything going on. She knows exactly where she's going, and if you get in her way and try to change her mind or give her something else, that's bad because change is terrible. And I found out that you don't always have to know exactly what you're doing at 18 and have it all laid out, and Leela learns that in the book too. So,
oh, I like that. That's a good lesson. It's a hard one to learn, though. Oh my goodness.
It's really hard.
It's painful. But we all get there I think we mostly get there.
I don't know. Yeah.
We're works in progress.
We try.
All right. Lauren, would you like to go next?
I'm going to say Andromeda, the main character within These Wicked Walls. Only because she's just so kind-hearted. Does that sound like I'm bragging? She's very sweet, but also knows when to be like, hey, look, like, chill. And then she loves food. So, and I love food. So she's constantly eating. So that's me.
I love it. She's a great character. And I don't think that it's bragging for you to say that you have her kindness as well, because I would agree with that assessment.
Oh, thank you. You're so sweet.
All right, Rebecca Wells.
Definitely Marin from Shatter the Sky and Storm the Earth. She's a very reluctant heroine. She really is comfortable in her small village, and she doesn't really want to leave and have adventures. And the only reason she does is because she's forced to when her girlfriend is abducted. And I feel like that too. I feel like very comfortable in my cozy house. I do not want to go on adventures. I would rather have, my blankets and my good food and not have to be like running around trying to escape things.
I am completely on board with that. Yeah. The Hobbit reluctance to adventures always just seems like good sense to me. They involve so much camping. Why do the adventures always involve so much camping? I don't want to do that ever.
I agree.
It's always just we're outside for weeks on end. Nobody wants that. Well, I mean, outdoorsy people do. They can go on the adventures. Okay, let's see. Here's another good one. I'm so excited to hear all your answers to all these questions. I just organized this event so I could hear what you all had to say. Okay, the next one is, if you could write in any category and genre outside the one you're currently working in, which would it be? So I guess I'll start. I would love to write an adult fantasy. And I occasionally talk about this infamous adult fantasy that I've been working on for like 8 years now. And I'll finish it when I'm like 84. But, that's what I would love to do if I could shift in a new direction.
Laura, okay. I gotta read it though. You gotta finish it.
They were like,
okay. Someday when it finally gels and I finally figure out how to end it. Okay, Lauren, you can go next then.
I'm gonna say adult romance because I love a happily ever after, and romance is like my favorite part of the story anyway. So I always start it with the romance, so I might as well just go full throttle.
That sounds amazing, and you would. I would love to read that. All right, Laura, would you like to go next?
I'm going to say adult upmarket, kind of like a Taylor Jenkins Reid, Chloe Benjamin type of hybrid. I think that would be fun.
Yeah, I think that would suit your
Let's do
voice
that.
extremely well too. I could totally see.
We'll see. You never know.
Yeah. Ooh. All right, Rebecca Ross.
I think one day I would really like to do historical fiction just because I like doing research as well. But I don't know. I don't know like what. I haven't really had an idea or anything jump out at me, but like maybe one day because I like dabbling in research. So I don't know. We'll see.
Oh man, I want to read that too. I love historical. All right, Makiia.
You know, I would want to be a professor and just write one of those obscure books on those obscure topics that no one reads about, like medieval bridges or ancient aqueducts, where they get so into their topic. I love discovering those when I'm researching my novels. So it would be fascinating. Doing all that research would be, they're hard to read. They're boring for most people, but I would love it.
I
would read that.
Yeah, I would absolutely read that. I have this huge box set of like this 3-volume enormous collected letters of C.S. Lewis.
Wow.
I have read them all. And when I was querying, I had a few calls with agents, and I joked to one of them, who's an older lady who is, I think she's either retired or she is retiring in the next year. And she's been in publishing for like a long time. She's a legend. And I joked to her that I'm the only person who's ever read the collected letters of C.S. Lewis. And she was like, oh, I worked on helping to edit those. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm sure other people have read them too. But anyway, so I am the perfect market for your obscure academic treatise.
Awesome.
Yes. All right, Rebecca Wells, what about you?
I would love to write fantasy and other age categories, but I think my most out there, hopeful publishing genre is adult rom-com. I do have an idea, but I need to write it.
That's the problem. You have to write the book once you have the idea.
That's just not fair. Like, we should get credit for the ideas.
There has to be some kind of shortcut. All right, let's see. Okay. I have. Okay. Oh, here's one. What sort of hobbies do you enjoy outside of writing? We already heard that Rebecca Ross likes to garden. Anything else, Rebecca?
No, and I feel like I need to get another hobby because I feel like all I do is write and read. So it's like I really need to do something else. I'm just not sure what. But
well, they're all quite time consuming, especially gardening. Oh my goodness, it's a huge time sink if you want to do it like remotely well.
That is very true. I feel like you're always having to weed and fight off pests and stuff like that. So yeah,
it's ridiculous. All right, Laura, what about you?
What is a hobby? I think I used to have them. I'm a pretty I like music. I play the piano and I'm trained as a jazz pianist. So I can do that kind of thing. And I love music and I try to put that in my books. But it's funny because I'm writing a book about a flower shop owner and gardener and a photographer, another one, and I wrote a book about a baker, and I hate all of those things.
You pick things you hate.
I know. I don't know why I do this to myself, but so everyone's like, why do you know it? And all the I guess in When We Were Them, I've got an opera singer, opera prodigy, and a future medical student, which my daughter wants to be a doctor. So I'm like, okay, that's closer to where I am, but everybody asks me about Cuban Girl, like, you must be the best baker. You must bake all the Cuban pastries, And I'm like, no.
So do you do a lot of research into those hobbies?
Well, yeah. I have friends that help tremendously. And like Cuban Girl was like all my family recipes, and they all helped me. And I grew up watching all of this. I helped, but that's how I learned. But no, it's just why do I do this to myself though? Just choose all of these. It's like write what you know.
Yeah.
I do the opposite. Write what you have no idea or what you're really not good at. Like I kill every plant. Do not let your gorgeous Laura, like, do not let your plants near me. They're like, go lady, get away from us. You know?
Oh my goodness. Do you at least like writing about those things though?
Yes.
Oh,
Sure.
okay, good. Good.
No, I do. And that's the thing. Maybe I tell my mother who's a consummate gardener and quilter and does all these crafts. Like I hate crafts. I know. I'm so sorry. Like quilts, and she does all this. I'm like, I just write. I like writing about it. All these things.
Yeah,
But
I
don't
was
like doing
always
them.
I was always completely like baffled as to why women have sewing rooms until I decided that I
mother.
would take up sewing and did it for like 5 minutes and was like, this is everywhere. I'm supposed to pack up this like extra machine and this box of materials. And I just had like a room exploded with stuff. And I was like, I understand now why women have sewing rooms.
I don't even. I can do a button, and that is like the extent of it. I'm so embarrassed. Like I cannot. I'm unable. Honestly.
Well, see, now you need to do a book about someone who's a seamstress.
I did in Library of Lost Things. I had like Marisol is like a fashion designer.
Oh my word! Oh my word!
I
I love it. I love that.
Okay. I need to. Yeah. Someone else help me.
All right, Lauren. What about you?
Well, I actually love cooking. So, yeah, cooking, and I'm a musician, play violin. So, which actually used to be my job, but now it's a pandemic, so it's my hobby. So, and now writing is my job. So it's weird how that happens. But anyway, yeah, I am a musician and
Switch. Awesome. I love that. All right. Rebecca Wells, what about you?
I sing sometimes, and before the pandemic, I used to go see a ton of musicals. I love musicals. And that was, I mean, there are many, many sad things about the last couple of years. And in terms of like the arts, that was one of the saddest to me, like not being able to have productions going and having that whole like sector of just like arts enrichment in our society kind of shut down. That was sad. But
so we need to start a band, basically.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
I love
Well,
that.
you know, like there are some like author bands out there.
Really?
Yeah, like I don't know, like a while ago, like Stephen King, I think, like there are a couple like famous authors who had this band that they would put together during conferences and that sort of thing. I forget exactly which people.
That's amazing. I love it.
Stuff to think about.
Yes, definitely. Makiia, what about you? Do you play piano by any chance?
Everyone else in the family plays piano, but me. I can play hot cross buns, but that's all I do.
wonderful.
Yeah, that's it. So I don't really have any hobbies. I like to read. I like road trips. I like visiting old towns. For example, we used to live in this teeny tiny town in Idaho, and then I drove once to this tinier little town, and this town had an abandoned hotel, and I love old abandoned buildings. So no one was looking. So a friend of mine and I, we snuck into this hotel. You guys, they had the metal grate for the front desk. It was still there. It was beautiful, abandoned. There was like bird droppings. There were no stairs. You had to just kind of climb. And then there was this one room upstairs in an old guest room. It had 20 doors in it. It's like someone just took off the doors and just put the doors in this room. So I just love imagining the history behind these old buildings, just kind of tied to writing. So is that a hobby? I don't
That's
know.
an awesome hobby. I think they call it urban exploration.
Really?
When you explore abandoned places. Yes.
I've
'Cause
never
I've
heard
done
of that.
that myself. So
I like urban exploration.
there you go. Now you've got a name for it. And I don't really have hobbies anymore because now I homeschool my children and write books at the same time. So I did before, but not in COVID times.
Your teas and soups, though, I remember this from like years ago.
I do make
you
good
and
soup.
your tea making and your soup making and your chickens.
Yes,
So
I do
good.
make good soup. Yes, that's true. Yeah, I mean, they're basically if like I don't know, somebody would have done it 200 years ago, probably I either have done it or still do it. So, you know, that kind of thing. let's see. Oh, another question I'm super excited for. What was your dream job as a child? So I'm going to start us off. Mine was to be a vet. And then when I was 10 years old, I developed allergies to every single creature with fur, which squashed my dream of becoming a vet, which was when I thought to myself, maybe I'll write books. And I really started writing a lot more. But my allergies have gotten better, and now I have a lot of pets. I have a dog, and I have 2 cats, and then like 2 extra cats who live outside that just came and found me. So I do have some sort of fulfillment of that childhood dream. What about you, Laura?
I think I wanted to be a pop star. That did not turn out. So, when you're little, I would play like with my hairbrush in front of the mirror and sing to all my little tapes and CDs.
Well, and then star to readers.
Yeah. So, but now I'm doing my dream job. This is definitely it. I don't want any other job.
This is a great job. All right, Makiia, what about you?
I wanted to be a newspaper reporter. So I went to the University of Oregon. I went to the journalism school. And then I took these classes, and I didn't want to be a newspaper reporter because you have to interview people. And it wasn't my thing. So, yeah, I went a different route. Then I wanted to talk to people.
Yeah, and this is kind of connected, too. So you still end up doing writing.
Yeah.
All right, Lauren, what about you?
I mean, I cycled through a few different ones, as kids do. But the one I most remember was I wanted to be an astronomer.
Ooh.
I don't know where that came from. I guess I just like what the outer space looked like the pictures I'd seen of planets and stars and stuff. I don't do anything to do with that anymore. Like, I'm a writer and musician, so I don't do any star related things. But yeah, that's the one I remember. Astronomer for some reason. I don't know.
I love it. Well, you could have written a book at some point about someone who's an astronomer.
But then I'd actually have to do research.
That's true. That's true. All right, Rebecca Wells, what about you?
Definitely marine biologist. I don't know why. I feel like many children have a marine biology phase, and maybe it's because dolphins are so cool. And then also, writing. Like, I was definitely interested in writing from a very early age, and here we are.
That's awesome. Marine biology is such a good one. I still, to this day, like if I'm watching a nature show and a whale shows up, I'm just like, that's it for me. They're so beautiful. I don't know what it is. Right, Rebecca Ross, what about you?
Okay, so I will also say I've always wanted to be a writer since I was really young, but the Olympics came to Atlanta, I think it was 1996, and I was 9 years old, and I loved horses, so I wanted to be an Olympic equestrian when I grew up. But of course, that did not happen. But I just remember being a kid, and just being so amazed when I actually got to go to the event with the horses and stuff. It was a lot of fun. So that made an impact on me as a kid.
That's amazing. To this day, I'm still super allergic to horses.
Oh no!
I was one of those dyed-in-the-wool horse girls. But my children now play this game for children called Star Stable online, and you have virtual horses and you ride them in the virtual world. And I play it with them every day.
That's so cute.
Because I'm it's my dream of having a horse. And it's designed for 9-year-olds, but I love it.
Well, okay. I feel like Olympic equestrian is actually still within reach for you.
Yeah.
None of us have a chance of being Olympic gymnasts, but equestrian, we could do it.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Oh, this is a good one. We kind of touched on this earlier, but how has your writing process changed since signing your first publishing contract? And I can go first. Because I started out as a pantser, and I wrote The Light Between Worlds completely with no outline, just made the whole thing up as I went. And then I had a really grueling editorial process with my second book, A Treason of Thorns, which I tried to do the same thing with. And I said, never again will I do that, because I rewrote it almost from the ground up 4 times in a row. And so then I started outlining by just writing a rough synopsis in advance. And now I've progressed from that to doing a chapter by chapter breakdown, because I find that I can write a lot faster that way. So I've like my pendulum has swung completely from one end of the spectrum to the other.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
And my question will give away something about how I write. But my question is like, where do you find, like, if you outline so it's in such a detailed way, do you still have like opportunity for like change or surprise or like sparks of unexpected things?
Yes. And if anyone else is an outliner, you can please go ahead and jump in and answer as well. I do find that stuff changes, and I'm never like completely married to the outline, and will, you know, go off book if need be and change things up. And sometimes I'll be writing a chapter that I had outlined and that worked really well in the synopsis, and it's just not working. So I have to throw it out the window and do something different. So there's still room to improvise. What about you, Rebecca Wells?
I'm definitely more of a pantser. I usually have kind of like a vague sense of the major arc of the story and usually a couple of specific scenes I have in mind. But other than that, I just kind of write. And then, like you start signing contracts. And for my second book, I had to turn in a detailed synopsis to get the deal. And then I started writing it, and I wrote the first draft like kind of to the synopsis, and then I was like, this is not correct. And I actually tore out probably the middle third of it just completely and rewrote it. And the beginning and the end remained kind of the same, but the middle is completely different from what's in the synopsis, like unrecognizable. One thing that also changed for me was now, when I'm revising, I print out the entire story and I revise by hand, and then I put it back into the computer. And I don't know why, but it just works better for my brain. I feel like I do better edits faster that way.
That's really interesting. And I know, Makiia, you said that you write by hand as well, don't you? What's your process like?
So I just grab my notebook and pencil, and the computer's off because I can't type directly onto the computer. Everything just freezes. And I like being able to just space out and daydream and draw little pictures, and then I start to write. But yeah, I'll write like 30 or so pages, type them into Word, print it out, and like Rebecca Wells, I need to edit on paper. And I just can't work on the computer. So it's slow, it's painful, but it's just how my brain works. It takes forever.
I feel like we're the same in that respect. I try to like trick myself by being like, oh, but like you can type so much faster than you can write. So obviously you would write faster on the computer, but it never works that way. And I just need to give it up. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, definitely you have to do what works for you. What about you, Laura? What's your process like?
I think I have just come to accept that my process is a mess, and it's fine because, I do everything that they tell you not to. Like, I edit as I go. I don't fast draft. Like, I sit there. I would rather kind of just cull things along and explore them. And even though I know where I'm going, I know like my beginning, my middle, the end. I know I write character-driven novels, so it's more about where the characters are going and how they change, and the plot is there to pull them through an arc or get them to where I need them. So I'm a little slower. It probably takes me between 5-6 months to draft a book, and then you have other books that you might have another book in copy edits that's coming out the next year, and you are writing a synopsis to try to sell something on pitch or proposal. So I think I have less time, and I've had to cull myself, but I like my process because it's just my own. And I thought, these are my words, so I can have my own process too. And that's okay. So I tell young writers, whatever works for you, just do it as long as it's working. If it's not working, then maybe you can adjust. But I think all of these processes are beautiful because they are whatever taps into the things that we have to say. And that's nothing bad about that. And so own it. It's good. I love hearing about all of these.
That's such a good perspective to have on it too. Like, we're individuals, so why wouldn't the way that we write books be individual as well? I really like that. Rebecca Ross, what about you?
I think just from being in the business for a while now, I feel like I know when I have a good story on my hands, because I definitely discovery write as well. I'm not a good plotter. So a couple of times, like, I've attempted to write a story and it's just like, it's not working. And I think I can recognize it faster now. Like, I don't have all the pieces. Like, I need to at least let this simmer a little while longer. And that's actually how Dreams Lie Beneath happened. Is I had the idea back in 2016 and I tried to write it like multiple times and just kept like fizzling out. But I wasn't ready to write it till 2019 when I finally had like all the ideas together, all the pieces. So I think I've just gotten a little bit better at like figuring out, like, because I pants everything, like when I know I have enough material to go on to actually make it to the end.
Oh, that's good. I like that. So you like know which story has legs and which one can go the distance. All right, Lauren, what about you?
I'm a pantser too. So I have like scenes that I know have to happen, like main event scenes, but getting there is just the characters are journeying. And if I have to go back and fix something, yeah, just like Laura, yeah, I go back and fix it right then so I don't forget.
Mm-hmm.
So like as I get to know the characters more, things start changing. Those main events always pretty much stay the same. And then I know the beginning. Most of the time I know the end. Like Laura Weymouth, you read my second book, those two versions, and I did not know what was going to happen at the end like that first time, but I figured it out. So yeah, it's kind of a character journey. Like as you get to know the characters, they kind of are like, oh, hey, let's go this way. Like my personality says I would go this way, so that you don't write outside of what the character would do. That's really important for me.
Yeah, I like that. That's definitely being true to the character is kind of the key of the book. Very good. All right. I think Amanda was going to chime in. She might have had a couple of questions for us before the end, or I have Oh, hi, Amanda. How are you? Hang on, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great. I'm muted so that you couldn't hear me slurping my milkshake while I listened to all of your amazing amazing questions. So yeah, I just have a couple of things I want to pop in. I'm curious what you guys are all reading now. And if the answer is your own book and copy it, that's honestly extremely acceptable. I will take that. Laura Weymouth, why don't you go first?
Okay, I can go first. I'm currently reading two things. They're both weird because I don't read a super lot of stuff in my category or genre because I'm always like either reading my own or critiquing for somebody else. I'm reading a book called Teaching from Rest, which is about homeschooling, because that's one thing I do a lot of right now and think about a lot. And I'm reading The Merry Adventures of Robin Hood by Howard Pyle out loud to my children, which is a weird old Victorian retelling of Robin Hood written in 1884.
Wow. I can go.
Yeah, Makiia.
I just finished, I found it randomly at the library. It's called Tooth and Claw, and I think it's by Joe Walton. You guys, it's so weird. It's so wonderfully weird because it's like reading Jane Austen. It's like reading Pride and Prejudice, but the characters are all dragons. I mean,
amazing. The ideal situation.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Rebecca Wells was nodding. Have you read that one too?
I have not yet, but I'm familiar, and that author just such interesting things all the time.
Things. Yeah.
Yeah, I am reading actually a book written by a girl I went to middle school with, and her first book is coming out next year. It's adult literary fiction called The Bartender's Cure, and the name is Wesley Stratton. And it's sort of like a Sweet Bitter-esque kind of a book about a young woman kind of lost in the world after college who gets a job bartending. And I know it's going to stab me in the heart. I'm just not sure how or when yet.
Excellent.
So I'm sort of like, I'm totally engrossed, but I'm also reading with dread.
I just downloaded. Oh, go ahead. Oh, yeah.
No, I was going to call on you, Laura.
Oh,
so
okay. I know we were talking about Jane Austen, and I just downloaded My Fine Fellow, which is an arc by Jenica Cohen, and it's a gender swap to My Fair Lady. And I just I have a new puppy, and I love My Fair Lady, and I named him Professor Henry Higgins because he's a real professor. But so I'm doing an event with her for her launch, and they gave me the book, and I cannot wait. I just started it, and I also just read Lauren's. Yay! Within these wicked walls, I ordered that one right away, and so that's a little different going between that that house
Is
to
your puppy a professor of?
He is a professor right now of nipping, biting, being a piranha, velociraptor, terrorist, eating my house shoes, and all those things. Yeah.
Wow, very multidisciplinary. That's so impressive.
So cute, though. He's
also, thank goodness, sleeping right now. Yeah.
Amazing. Lauren Blackwood, what about you?
I've been in a weird period because my book just came out, so I've been obsessively listening to my audiobook of Within These Wicked Walls. Since it came out, I've been listening to different chapters and stuff. But then also I'm a Pitch Wars mentor, so I was reading a lot of subs. So I haven't read much for fun, but I'm getting ready to do that because Pitch Wars is announced tonight at midnight, I think. So
I know.
You're ready.
I'm so ready.
Was anyone else in Pitch Wars? I was an alternate. Were you? Okay. It's such a good...
I was a mentor a couple of years.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing this year. I'm a mentor.
So cool.
What about you, Rebecca Ross? You're the only one who hasn't said what you're reading yet, right? I haven't skipped anyone else.
Yeah, so I have not had much time to read it all recently, and I hate that. But I will say I just got Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Sue Lin Tan, an arc in the mail. I am so excited to read that one. So that's going to be my next read.
Amazing. And for anyone who's watching who wants to read any of these amazing books, I did post the links to buy all of them from One More Page in the comments. I'd recommend them as great reads. And as Lauren said, they also have great audiobooks. For those who may not know, especially with the supply chain being, what it is. Libro FM is the indie booksellers' answer to audiobooks. It's a fabulous service, works the same as the other big A audiobook service. It's credits per month. They do really cool things, and you can support the indie bookstore that you want to support when you buy things there. It can be One More Page. I mean, it should be, but any other indie bookstore is also great. So that's another great option if you guys need audiobooks. We are just about out of time. But Laura Weymouth, do you have any last thoughts? Calls to action, anything that you want to say, or any of the other authors we have here?
Thank you so much to everyone for coming out and joining us who's watching from home or maybe watching at a later date. And thank you so much to my lovely, lovely fellow authors who were on board when I slunk into their Twitter DMs like complete banana going, hey, do you all want to be in an event with me? And they were like, sure. And thank you to One More Page that didn't think that was a crazy idea and just jumped right on board because I had a super lot of fun and it was a great time.
Thank you, Laura, for moderating. And
Thank you.
Yes, and happy book birthdays, upcoming, past, present to all of you. We're so excited for all of you and for releasing your books. Congratulations on doing this in this absolute nonsense time. It is not easy, and I absolutely commend all of you.
Everybody should hold up their book one more time. Yay!
This will be the screenshot for the YouTube clip. Okay, great. Thank you all, and thank you guys for watching. Have a great Friday night or whenever you're watching, and thanks for joining One More Page. Bye.
Bye.